Today let's talk through some just basic rules when working with data. So you can see here I'm in my template spreadsheet with all the sheets that we usually work with. And you can see I'm in the master table database product sheet. So the point of this sheet is that when you're working with data, you want single sources of truth, meaning that there's one place you go to that has the ultimate source of the data. So no matter what you do with the data, whether you analyze it or you move it around or you really, whatever you do with it, wherever it goes, it should all point back to one place. So you can take this data, you can import this to other sheets, you can have views of it, you can do whatever you want, but no matter what, this is going to be the one place that this data lives. That is always the one place you have to change. If you change it here, it should change it in other places. Once you have things in too many places, you have to enter it more than once, maintain it more than once. It's just a waste of time and it's never going to work. Things will always break, they'll be inaccurate, and it's just not going to be an efficient system and it's not going to work. So that's why I call this the master table in the database, because this is the one place for the source of this data. After you have that one place, you can do joins, joining this table with other tables and put formulas in here if you do want to. You don't want too many formulas in the main master table. For the most part, you want the analysis to happen externally with different views, like this monthly view and these summary views, which we'll get into. But you can, for example, in this column, join, in here I have a lookup for the category to type. So this is in somewhat a separate table, right? This is a table with category and type, and this is a table with the other data. But if you want to do a lot of analysis with the type, you can use a formula to join these two tables, which is essentially what this formula does. It joins that smaller table with this bigger table based on the category and type link. So it fills in the type based on whatever the category is. And you can occasionally put in formulas here. You see this is a formula. Again, you don't want to do it too often with your master table, but if you're going to do a lot of analysis of a certain piece of data, in this case the revenue, you can put it in here because it is going to make it much easier and faster to do the analysis. So that's how it works. You have your master table and you again join it to other tables or do some formulas to make this master table the place with all the data and the one source of data. And then you do take your views. Here's an example of a monthly view of all of the data in the master table with summary data. And we have checks here too, which we'll talk about. And here's another view of just summary of the master table. So the earliest date, the latest date, total units, pretty obvious stuff, but the main concept is that you have your master and then you have your views of it. It's the best way to work with data. It's the way to keep it the cleanest, be the most efficient, keep it accurate. It just won't work any other way if you don't do it like this. One other thing to think about when you're doing this is that data should always go down. If you're going way too far to the right, you're probably doing something wrong, because it's, number one, you can see spreadsheets and databases too. In this case, we're using a spreadsheet just like a database anyway. They're not meant to keep going super far right. So the data should really go down. It should not go across. The header should be up top and the data should go down. And in many cases, you may want to add, if you're using spreadsheets, a few rows up top where you can put notes up here that can say, this is the master source of truth of product data, right? You can do things like that. And then it can be a way for people to know what they're doing in this sheet. So that's just another tip that you may want to use sometimes. And you also may want to use ID. So in this case, we have an ID, the batch split ID. It can make it much easier to talk about this data, refer to this data, and track it. In spreadsheets, you obviously have the row number here that the spreadsheet gives to you. So you don't necessarily need it, but I do find it helpful to have an ID for each row that then helps me do analysis and talk about it when I'm talking to other people, or when I'm importing it to another sheet, I can then keep them aligned so I can import the ID, I can know what I'm talking about here and there. So those are just some few data basics. Those are the foundations of what you'll be building. Whenever you're building a new spreadsheet, building a new process, make sure you follow those rules. It will make your life much easier. It will make the data more accurate, much more efficient, and you'll be glad you did.